Greetings, and welcome to the 80 Level Roundtable podcast. In each episode, host Kirill Tokarev invites video game industry leaders to talk about the world of game development. No topic is off limits as long as it relates to video game development. New episodes are in the works, so remember to follow us or subscribe and share with someone you know will also enjoy the podcast.
Can you give us like a little introduction? You've been an indie dev for a while. You did some games before, and you've been working on this project for like a long period of time.
Yeah.
How did you get into this position? How did you become like an indie dev? Were you working in a studio before? Did you do some, I don't know, like freelance, or were you working in some other area, like not in games? How did you get into this world of video game development?
Yeah, I was actually doing something else before. I worked in the printing industry since 2013. And then I took my savings and said to myself, I'm going to make games now, and moved to Berlin together with my wife. And then I began making very small projects in games for the learning. So I participated in Ludum Dare and other game jams. And the intention was to make some prototype for a portfolio to apply for a job at some company. But then I liked working on my own games so much that that felt like the more I wanted to pursue that. And then at some point, Death Smash just happened. Like it was there immediately, like from the images, something interesting for me. And very early on, I knew I wanted to make this game now. But it's really like my first commercial game, like the first big game.
So
My game making roots though they are way back. I began like in the 90s already making small amateur games like on the side.
So can you tell us a little bit about the kind of like the tech behind the project? Is this your own engine? Are you building everything on your own, or do you use some kind of like existing technology like Unity or maybe Game Maker or something?
Yeah, we are using Unity. I actually used Unity the years before for the other project, so it was like an easy decision to go to just continue using that. But we have actually a lot of framework and tools that are custom made. So I got into into programming editor tools in Unity, and we have a level editor that is on top of the Unity scene view, but does a lot of custom stuff, and it even works like partially in the runtime now. So long term, maybe my wish would be to even publish some kind of level editing tools for the game.
To encourage modding and map making.
Yeah, that would be, so it's not 100% sure, but it's like a wish of mine that could happen.
So one of the things that we kind of ask a lot for video game developers in particular is are they using the different like plugins, SDK, maybe UI plugins and something from the Unity Asset Store? Like, are they of use to you? Do you find them kind of interesting? Do you use them in your game? Or in majority of cases, they kind of like not really good, or they only work for prototypes, that kind of thing? What's your position for that?
Yeah, I think there's cool stuff there, but I don't use much personally. So we have one plugin for the controller for supporting different types of controllers. and we use Fmod for the audio. That was a wish from the audio guy.
Hmm.
But I think that's even it. Like maybe like 2 or 3 like mini libraries for some animations or small scale stuff, like some utilities. Yeah, but apart from that, it's all custom made. I even I even made like a plugin myself that is now used by others, which is like for the pixel art import. There's Sprite, a pretty common pixel art painting program now. And when I started, there wasn't like any kind of tooling from the painting program to Unity. So I coded an importer for that and made that open source, and it's used by some people, and they are really happy that something like this exists now.
Stefan, so why do you decide to build things, those elements yourself? Why not use the existing solution? Is this because maybe there are no solutions that kind of fit your needs,
Yeah,
or maybe the quality is poor? Like, what's the reasoning behind it?
uh, yeah, for the specific needs, there was rarely something that fit really good. Like Death Thresh has this complicated art setup, and uh, maybe not really complicated, but like it has like this perspective, which is more like organic shapes uh, of the
Hmm.
pixel art sprites. So like some kind of grid-based tool didn't fit. So we needed for a level editor that could place the sprites anywhere, but would still be good to use. But then in other parts, we needed for the underground levels, we use a grid solution, but that had to fit like with the other stuff we used. So we couldn't like it wouldn't be of use to use an external grid-based solution. So it just grew into this like lots of custom solutions for custom problems specific to this game.
I noticed the same thing among other developers as well. A lot of
Mhm.
developers, it just seems that it's so much easier right now to build your own game because there are a lot of those SDKs and plugins and libraries, and you don't really have to do everything from the blank sheet. But still, I talk with a lot of developers, and like majority of them say that they want to build their own, like they build their
Mhm.
own solutions, utilities, like you mentioned, like even for something that is kind of trivial and maybe there is also a solution available somewhere,
Mhm.
they just don't want to get um linked with another company or with another tool and make this kind of like a strategic step, because you kind of become dependent on whatever the other team is doing, and it needs to be updated, needs to fit your pipeline, and it's just like I see a lot of kind of like pushback from the
Mhm.
developers when I'm just asking like why not? Because on one hand there is a lot of developers who we feature on 80 level, and
Yeah.
they are building those SDKs, they're building like asset packs and all that stuff. And I know that is successful and people are using that and in different projects or just to play around and so on. But it seems when we talk about like professional game development, when you're actually making a product and you want to sell it, very few developers want to rely on somebody else's work. They kind of
And
want to do everything themselves.
yeah, I think it's mostly they had probably a bad experience at some point where they had a route block, some bug that was in some plugin, and they couldn't immediately figure it out, or
Yes,
maybe
exactly,
the plugin
exactly.
maybe the plugin wasn't open source, so they just had to really rely on the other company following through and or fixing that. So like over the years, I think like the experienced developers, they had enough of these occurrences that they rather take the path where it might take a bit longer, but they could potentially fix everything by themselves, just like they have certainty they can fix something. I think that's
Yeah, but it's even more surprising because you were like one man show. You were doing the whole work yourself. You didn't have like
Mhm.
anyone kind of helping you and so on. So that's even in this situation when you're kind of strapped for time and money and resources, and you're kind of doing all of those things, you still want to do this yourself because you trust yourself more, I guess, than some guys like who are doing these things and providing solutions.
Yeah, but I think it's also like it's maybe my. So I grew up in the 90s with and its software,
Yeah, yeah,
Doom
yeah,
and
yeah.
Quake. They made their own engine, and then it was so cool. Like there's a vibe to it that like to people old enough like me, it's still somehow yeah, yeah, it feels just cool to make your own stuff. And
Your own stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And funny enough, if you think all the companies that are kind of successful right now, if you think about like um, I don't know, like League of Legends, if you think about Dota, if you think about World of Tanks, and Crisis, and all the other games, those are mostly built with their own technology. Like even Fortnite, it's built with the Unreal Engine, but they own this engine,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I heard a lot of kind of venture guys and all the other guys. They're saying that it's kind of like a very big competitive advantage. Although we kind of live in the area and time where everybody's kind of using Unity or something else, you still want to have some code of your own because it allows you for more freedom. And basically, it's yours, so you can do whatever you want with it, and you kind of shift directions and so on and so forth. So,
mhm,
Stefan, I want to kind of maybe switch gears a little bit and talk about the way you approached the promotion of the game.
yeah.
Because I remember it was, and I read through your interview on Kama Sutra that you started showing it to the public very early. It's like a while ago, like I mentioned at the beginning. So
Yeah.
there were just some screenshots and stuff. So what were the things that you were doing in the beginning that kind of brought attention to the game?
So actually, the game, it was visible publicly from day one because it started with an image. Like I was like in that phase where I made for learning art just a lot of paintings, and then there was like Fallout 4 announcement, and then I made one fan art image about that in this perspective and this rough pixel art, and that was basically the first image of Death Slash. And when I posted it, I saw immediately like it had like 50 likes on Twitter, which is a lot more than I got for the stuff before. And told me like it's a game I like, but others like too. And then it felt natural to okay, maybe the second image I draw for the game, maybe I post that too, like online. So I continued con- just with Twitter, uh, immediately showing everything I made for the game. Like while I was figuring out how this game world even works, I was showing everything, and not all of the images I posted were good or like really interesting for all the people, but I think some of them also got interested in the process of witnessing how like the world even came into being in the first place. And then it took just like 2 or 3 months, and then pages like Rock Paper Shotgun, etc. They posted about it and then got a lot of comments about that.
Yeah, I
And
think Rock Paper Shotgun helped a lot because
it,
they kind of like these games. They're like PC, and it fits whatever they're writing, like their editorial policy, right?
yeah, and the Adam Smith was the guy back then, and he wrote like he wrote an article and was so fascinated by the game apparently, and so many people in the comments were too. And it was just the artworks of the game. It told them like they could always, the people I think could already imagine some kind of stories happening in that world, and it had a strong personality immediately.
So, and then you mentioned that it kind of dwindled down, so you saw less of the attention, and
Yeah.
one of the big pushes was during E3. So can you tell us a little bit about how did you plan this? So you have a marketing freelancer who's helping you out, and you had a demo,
Mhm.
and how did you plan this release? What were your expectations? How did you decide to kind of approach this and so on?
Yeah, it began a bit earlier. I think like the year before, last year. I already felt like the game feels good, but I wasn't sure about all the people, the audience that came to the game over the years, if they will still be interested. So it was interesting to me to just see like would they be interested in the game still. So I reached out to one YouTuber, Splattercat Gaming, and he made a stream. And it went really well, like it had 300,000 views or something like that, and the people were really commenting under that too. The game felt polished enough, it felt good enough. And then I got in contact with the marketing freelancer, and we made we laid out the plan for the summer. Basically, our main thing we wanted to do was take part in the Steam Next Fest. That was the main thing. We built basically everything else around. So and then it came like the first thing was we handed out more keys to other YouTubers, and there were a few who made videos, and Ragnarox, who is a, I would say, medium-sized YouTuber. He made a very glowing review about the demo, and all the other content on his channel is finished games. So it stood really out, and that got some people hyped. And um, then was the announcement of the demo, and then came the E3 with a trailer, and at that point, like there were enough people activated, I think, from the old audience who were always interested, but maybe forgot a bit about the game, and now it was visible again to them. And we were lucky enough to get, I think, the best place in the PC gaming show. Uh, we somehow got in there, I think, by luck.
How did you get into the PC gaming show?
Yeah, I think that was Marco, our marketing freelancer, just wowed them at some point, and they were basically already finished wrapping up with what they wanted for the show, and then they saw our work in progress trailer and said, "Oh yeah, that could be really good for the show." And then they gave us like a major spot, and so it
Wow.
was like almost at the end. So there was still some stuff after it, but I think it was like one of the main places. And that was, you could immediately see that. So we had a Steam page running with a recording, so you can see the number of people visiting in that moment in the page, and it was like 10,000 or something like that. It was immediately
Wow.
you could feel it, and
Yeah.
and a week later was the demo, and that went so well. Like it was, yeah, played by so many, and I think, uh, yeah. So the people were like hyped before, and now they could play it for themselves for 1 or 2 hours.
So you kind of do everything yourself. So it's like it's a very different strategy that a lot of developers are taking, because I talk with a lot of guys who don't want to work with marketing, who don't want to think about the influencers and stuff. They just want to develop the game. Like
Yeah,
they develop, and all of the other stuff they outsource. So they give it to a publisher, or maybe they hire some agency. But in majority of cases, it's the publisher, right? You
yeah.
are approaching this in a completely different manner. So you're basically building your game on your own. You're doing the test of the audience very early on to understand if they like the look and the atmosphere and the design, and then you decide to go completely self-publishing. So
Mhm.
can you explain to us why did you decide to go that way? And what are like the advantages of self-publishing that are important to you, like to you and your team, and why do you think it's a better choice than working with a publisher, for example? Because I'm
Yeah,
sure there are a lot of publishers who contact you and said,
yeah.
"Here's $1 million. Let's do something."
Yeah, yeah, there were some publishers contacting me. Yeah. Uh, and I should mention, we are a team of two right now. No? Since last year, there's another developer who's also an all-rounder. I just wanted to mention that, it was 5 years of solo
So
developer, but
yeah,
since last year,
you doubled your team.
yeah, yeah. So the marketing, I think, it the the biggest advantage is that you have such a strong personal voice. So I can just at every minute I can just post about the game, my own opinion, and people don't always have to agree, but they can immediately feel, oh, there's a person behind that project, and that person has a strong opinion about some things, and so they can relate a lot, or they can they might not be happy about all the design decisions I make, but they can really see where the decisions are coming from and that kind of stuff. And I think I'm pretty transparent with most of the stuff I do. I post about like the process, the ups and downs of what's happening. So most people following the project, they should have a clue about what's really happening. There's no layer between them and me. Why it started like that in the first place may be also because of the years before, where I made these very small projects in the game jams, etc., and then I uploaded them. So that was part of my process to also publish them, and they got no views, no plays, nothing. So I kind of guessed like this needs a different approach. Like you have to take care of. You don't only have to make the game; you have to sell the game. Have to bring it to the people to get people give it attention. And yeah, I think the very first moment when I posted that image and got like 50 likes on Twitter, it was like it just came together. I want to make this game, and there's an audience for it. Like, go forward.
Oh, so how did you how did you start kind of getting your community together? Like, I mean, there are, because that's super important. Like, emails are like the gold in this situation, right? Because you need to get as many emails as possible, because then they can wish list the game on Steam or somewhere, and you can communicate with the audience. So
Yeah.
that's basically your core thing. So how did you how did you get those emails, or did you do like Facebook, or did you do Twitter, or what was the main source where you tried to kind of gather all your users and potential buyers?
I think for me it was Twitter, but it's mostly I think for my own convenience, because I liked using it, like the platform, like of using two sentences but not more, like that fit really good to how I liked posting about the game and the gifs. And I tried other things like a Facebook and a Tumblr blog, but Twitter felt always like home to me. So I concentrated on that to not to do too much at once. And uh, I made the Steam page. I made pretty late. I think in 2019. I think we could have made that earlier to already gather a wish list.
Hmm.
But I also wasn't for a while. I wasn't really sure which like publishing plan I should follow, like, should I early access like we are doing right now, or should we make a Kickstarter, or maybe a publisher? Maybe. So it was undecided, and I think that was the main reason why we didn't make a Steam page yet. And the other thing that I knew the game would still be take some years, then it felt maybe too early, and people would get maybe disappointed if they see a Steam page for 3 or 4 years. Although in reality, I think it doesn't make there's not a big disadvantage if you make it that early.
So, yeah, as far as I understand, majority of the investments, like probably 100%, is based. The investments in the games is your own money, right? So you had some savings, and you kind of basically lived on this money and tried to.
Yeah, mostly on savings. We had a government funding, a regional government thing. It's like 50,000 euros, and it's if the game is successful, then we have to pay it back. Otherwise, it would have been on them. So that was like maybe for half of the project time or less. But the other parts were our own savings. Yeah, my own, and then my wife helped out, and my family.
So family and friends basically helped you out.
Yeah.
Were you approached by? I mean, you mentioned you were approached by like a publisher.
Yeah.
How do they help? How do they sell you this deal? Like, what's the percentage that they give to you, and what is the percentage you give to them? And why you didn't take that deal? Like, what was the reason for kind of not going in that direction?
I actually didn't have that many talks about direct percentages. I think they stopped already earlier. So I was always like a bit hesitant. I think I myself, I only want to, in the very first year, I want to Devolver, and they were kind of interested, but already saw that it was too early, I think. And after that, maybe in my head it was already like, okay, I'm doing self-publishing, but I'm not 100% sure. So I kept talking to these other publishers, and that, I don't know, percentages. It could be like from 30% for them or upwards, and so all of the contacts were really like good and friendly, and even like the business propositions of them that I saw always they felt okay, like not like like I'm dealing with bad
Scammers or something. Yeah.
it was just my own decision to then not pursue it.
So what about the way that you monetize? So is this I know that you released the demo, and then I know that you're releasing the game, and the game it's like an early access, as far as I understand. It's a part of the whole package. It's not the full.
Yeah.
It's like a part of this adventure. So how do you plan to sell it and release it? Is it just going to be like a premium title that you're gonna sell for like in perpetuity, or do you want to build it into like DLCs, or are there some ideas about like in-game items or skins or something that you want to monetize more?
No, I think I'm really old school and classic. I want to make the game and people buy it, and that's basically it. Apart from maybe a bigger expansion, but I'm not sure if we are doing an expansion or a sequel or a different game, but maybe in the same genre. I think one of these three will happen after the game, but I'm not sure yet. But apart from that, we are like, yeah, there's one prize and you get one game. That's it. And
And
we are,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So with the early access, it's a third of the final package. So people who are maybe looking into like how many gameplay hours they get for their money, they probably won't be that happy with the game. So we are like at every opportunity telling them just wait for the game, for the full game, skip it for now. What we mostly want from the early access is like our core fan base who are already interested in the game, and people who liked the demo and went a few hours more, and then we get all the feedback from them. So if it's just enough money that we can continue and get enough quality feedback, that's at this stage the only thing we want. So I don't want too many people coming in and then get disappointed about that they're not getting enough content yet.
Yeah, I see. So yeah, my question was, you currently have this on Steam. Like, do you plan to sell it in any other place? Do you want to do like Good Old Games? Do you want to go on like?
Oh, we are already selling. The launch, the early access was already on GOG, Epic Game Store, and even the itch store.
Mm-hmm.
And we are also developing the console versions. So we have them functional and working, and they would be released right alongside the PC 1.0 version.
Do you develop the console versions yourself, or do you hire like outsourcing everything yourself?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy though.
Yeah, but maybe it's also just my technical interest or curiosity. Like, at least for the first time, I just want to see every single step. I want to I want to know how these things work, etc. Like,
So, do you have any plans to setting up your own store, like on the website or somewhere, or is this is not something that you would like to do?
probably not. I think I was already annoyed by the work that has to go into the publishing process. Like, it's not it's doable, and it's just a few tasks, but like them adding up that you have to make store graphics here and like the legal stuff and all the like these small publishing steps, that it's already so a bit annoying for me that I wouldn't want to get into making my own store and have like a very complicated version of that.
And from your experience, kind of working with all those platforms, which one did you like the most? Like which one was the easiest process to publish, and which one was like the worst?
will, will this printed be directly public, or is it like safe to say something?
No, you can say it.
Nah, it's they're all really good. Like, I didn't have much expectations yet, but like I really love Steam because I can do everything on my own. Like, same will maybe with the game making. I am in control, and it's like, yeah, I can fix the stuff and make it. The itch store, it's the same, but then the GOG people, they handle most of the stuff for you, but then they also really care about the game. So especially with Deathwish, the GOG people, they were like they really like the game and were really helpful. And the people from Epic, they were also really helpful and friendly. Like, that came together really last minute. So they saw it in the E3 events, etc., that the game got attention, and then they approached me and, here, why not make the launch also now there? And so it was really last minute and a bit stressful, but they were also really helpful. So for all the stores, I'm really happy with how they handle things.
And in terms of like pre-orders and just I guess wish lists and downloads. So which one brings you the most users? I guess it's Steam, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
has the biggest.
So we are selling the game now since 5 or 6 days. So I already have like the sales numbers, and Steam is by far like
The biggest,
way
probably.
way over 90%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Stefan, thank you for the time and the interview. I have like one request. If you were talking to like indie developers who are like you, who are just starting out and maybe building their first project and so on. So what advice would you give them at the very beginning? Because I think the project that you kind of talked about right now and how you approach it is like a very good um mature way of approaching video game development, because you
Yeah.
started with something that you really liked, but you showed it to the world, you got some, market response, and then you kind of continued with your own money, you kind of believed in this idea, and you're basically holding everything in your own hands, like the IP and everything. You didn't sell it out, and you're now self-publishing, which is also amazing. So the revenue that's keep coming, it's all yours basically, apart from maybe Steam and platforms and so on.
Yeah.
But majority of cases, it's yours. So how would you kind of distill it into some kind of grain of wisdom that you can give to other
Mhm.
people, and so they can avoid making some mistakes?
Yeah. So the two things you mentioned, I think like you have to really make a game you yourself love making. If you end up making it so many years, which could happen, then it should be really something you like doing every day. And the second part, you also have to make sure there's an audience for it. And if you're starting out, I think you have to just be public with a lot of stuff. Not so maybe you're afraid your ideas get stolen, etc. But like the biggest danger is that you're making something no one is interested in. So you have to test that somehow. And you also have to, like, you shouldn't do a project like that right from the start. So I already had like years of experience. It felt right for me to now begin it. I felt like a confident programmer, and I was still a beginner artist, but like I had found an art style for the project immediately. So there was a lot of base already there. So so to small so beginning indie developers, I think they should really make sure they already have some kind of experience before, or maybe they have a game that they already have an audience, or that yeah, they already have the product basically, and
Yeah,
it can still work out that they are learning to do the job while doing the job. Yeah.
yeah. I think you're right. Basically, you still need to get some kind of experience if you're if
Yeah.
you if you want to do this, and it's very hard to do this like from the very beginning without any mistakes. You have to make those mistakes, and you kind of been working on those games before, which didn't fly, and I guess the lessons that you learned there, you applied to the current project, and it helped you succeed and make a better game.
Yeah.
Anyway, Stefan, thank you so much for finding the time. Uh, it was very enjoyable to talk to you, and I hope your game sells more and more, and we'll see the release of the final version, and then the sequel, and then maybe you start selling figurines or
Maybe.
something. Or anyway, yeah, thank you so much, and see you. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for talking to me. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for enjoying another episode of the 80 Level Roundtable podcast. Check out upcoming episodes on the 80 Level website at 80.lv. Join our career site at 80.lv/RFP. And share our podcast with friends and on your social networks.